in the garage finishing some DIY projects when I heard voices from the living room. Curiosity piqued. I approached quietly, expecting Laura to be venting about work or something trivial. Instead, what I saw made my blood run cold. Laura was tangled with Mark, their bodies entwined in a passionate embrace. The sight was surreal, a betrayal that struck me like a physical blow. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? Why hadn't I seen any signs? Emotions surged within me. Anger, hurt, disbelief. But beneath it all was a simmering confidence. I knew I deserved better, and I wasn't going to let her manipulation go unanswered. The shock of seeing Laura with Mark left me numb for a moment, but my self-confidence snapped me back into reality almost instantly. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Emotions like anger and betrayal surged, but beneath it all, there was a cool, calculated resolve. I wasn't going to let this slide. I stepped into the living room, my presence immediately causing Laura and Mark to freeze. Laura's eyes darted to mine, a mix of panic and defiance flashing in her gaze. Mark, ever the professional, straightened up, tools forgotten in his hands. "Laura," I said, my voice calm but edged with steel. "We need to talk." She shot me a withering look. "Oh, great. What now?" Her tone was dripping with contempt, the same attitude she often displayed when things didn't go her way. Mark looked uncomfortable, sensing the tension. "I'll leave you two to it," he interjected, trying to defuse the situation. "I'll just go." I nodded curtly. "No, Mark. You stay. We'll finish this conversation like adults." Laura scoffed. "Like adults? You think this is an adult conversation?" I ignored her snarky remark and turned my attention back to her. "Explain this, Laura. How long has this been going on?" Her eyes narrowed. "That's none of your business," she snapped, crossing her arms defensively. "Actually, it is," I countered smoothly. "We're married. I deserve honesty." Mark shifted uncomfortably, the air thick with unspoken tension. "Is there something I can help with here?" he asked cautiously. I gave him a dismissive glance. "No, Mark. This is between Laura and me." Laura rolled her eyes, her frustration palpable. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe if you paid more attention instead of burying yourself in work, things wouldn't be so boring." Her words stung, but I kept my composure. "Laura, this isn't about me being busy. This is about trust. You chose to betray that trust." She laughed bitterly. "Trust? You think you're perfect? Maybe if you weren't so controlling and always needed to be right, I wouldn't have felt the need to find someone else who actually listens." I felt a surge of anger, but I restrained it. "You're twisting this. You came to me with your complaints, and I did my best to address them. Instead of working with me to fix our marriage, you chose to cheat." Her demeanor shifted from defensive to angry. "Fix our marriage? By what? By ignoring my needs and treating me like a project to manage? You're unbelievable." I took a step closer, my confidence unwavering. "I've always provided for us, both financially and emotionally. Maybe you should reflect on what you want instead of throwing everything away." At that moment, the doorbell rang. Both Laura and Mark glanced towards the front door, momentarily distracted. I seized the opportunity. "Excuse me," I said, moving towards the door. "I'll see who that is." Laura watched me go, her expression a mix of annoyance and curiosity. As I opened the door, a chill ran down my spine. Standing there was Detective Ramirez, a familiar face from the local police force. "Mr. Thompson," he greeted, his tone serious. "I need to speak with you regarding a matter of importance." My heart raced. What could this possibly be about? "Of course, Detective. Please, come in," as he stepped inside. Laura shot me a questioning look, but I ignored her. "What's this about?" Detective Ramirez closed the door behind him and took a seat. "It's about your wife, Laura. We've received reports and evidence suggesting she's been involved in some illicit activities recently." I raised an eyebrow, trying to mask my surprise. "Illicit activities? Like what?" He leaned forward, his expression grim. "There's been suspicious behavior linked to her, including unauthorized access to financial accounts and connections with known fraudulent individuals. We need to investigate further." Laura's face paled, and she opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand to silence her. "Detective, I assure you, Laura has been nothing but dedicated to our household and her job." Ramirez nodded slowly. "That's what many believe, but the evidence points otherwise. We'll need to conduct a thorough investigation." As the detective continued outlining the situation, I felt a mix of confusion and determination. This unexpected twist added another layer to the already tangled web of deceit. Not only was Laura unfaithful, but she was also involved in something far more sinister. My mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. Could Laura have been using Mark as part of her scheme? Or was this a separate issue altogether? Either way, it only strengthened my resolve to take control of the situation. As the detective left, promising to be in touch, I turned to Laura, who was visibly shaken. "Looks like things just got a lot more complicated." She glared at me, her earlier bravado replaced with fear and uncertainty. "You have no idea what you're getting into." I met her gaze steadily. "Oh, I think I do. And trust me, Laura, I'm just getting started." The days following that explosive confrontation were a whirlwind of tension and calculation. Laura's demeanor had shifted dramatically. No longer the sharp-tongued antagonist, but someone actively undermining our relationship at every turn. Her lies became more elaborate, her rudeness more frequent, and her manipulative streak more pronounced. I immersed myself in my work, using my home office not just as a place for professional tasks, but as my command center for what was to come. Every interaction with Laura was meticulously observed and documented. Her late nights at work? Just a facade. The secret meetings, she mentioned? Nothing more than fabricated excuses to mask her true activities. One evening, as I sifted through our joint bank statements, a pattern began to emerge. Unexplained expenses, small at first, but consistent enough to raise suspicion. Laura had been siphoning funds, diverting money to accounts I didn't recognize. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. She was undermining our financial stability, setting the stage for a larger fall. Determined to uncover the full extent of her deceit, I decided to take a more direct approach. I hired a private investigator, someone discreet and efficient, to dig deeper into Laura's activities. The investigator's reports confirmed my suspicions. Laura was entangled in multiple affairs, not just with Mark. She had been systematically dismantling our marriage, exploiting my trust and confidence to build her own web of lies. Emotionally, the confirmation was a bitter pill to swallow. Anger mingled with a sense of betrayal, but my self-confidence remained unshaken. I knew I was in control here. Laura had underestimated my resilience, my ability to turn the tables. Her arrogance and deceit only fueled my determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, Laura's behavior continued to spiral. She became increasingly volatile, her outbursts more frequent and intense. Friends and family began to distance themselves, wary of her unpredictable nature. It was clear she was burning bridges, isolating herself as part of her strategy to destabilize our marriage further. One night, I received a call from the private investigator. He had uncovered something significant, a hidden safe in our basement, long forgotten, containing incriminating evidence of Laura's affairs and financial manipulations. This was the leverage I needed to ensure her downfall. I approached Laura with a calm exterior, masking the storm brewing inside me. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. She looked up, her eyes flashing with defiance. "I know everything, Laura. About the affairs, the money, everything." Her reaction was priceless. The facade cracked, revealing the desperation beneath. "You have no proof," she spat, attempting to maintain her composure. "Oh, but I do," I replied smoothly. "And once I present it, there's no turning back." She tried to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. The hidden safe contained receipts, photos, and bank statements that laid bare her betrayal. Her attempts to manipulate the situation only highlighted her vulnerability. As I stood there, holding the key to her undoing, a sense of clarity washed over me. This was the moment to take control, to execute the revenge I had meticulously planned. Laura's reign of deceit was coming to an end, and I was prepared to ensure she paid for every lie, every betrayal. But just as I was about to move forward, a twist I hadn't anticipated emerged. The investigator revealed that Mark, the plumber, was not just a casual affair. He was connected to a larger scheme Laura had been part of, one that involved financial fraud and embezzlement. Laura wasn't just cheating. She was orchestrating a complex web of deceit that threatened to ruin not just our marriage, but our entire lives. Realizing the depth of her manipulation, my initial plan for personal revenge expanded into something far more significant. This wasn't just about catching her in the act anymore. It was about dismantling the entire operation she had built, ensuring that she faced the consequences of her actions on every level. Emotionally, the revelation shifted my focus. What began as a personal vendetta evolved into a mission to protect our lives from the fallout of her deceit. My confidence, once solely centered on our relationship, now encompassed a broader determination to restore order and integrity. The revelation that Laura was entangled in a financial fraud scheme sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just a personal betrayal anymore. It was a professional catastrophe waiting to unfold. My mind raced with possibilities and consequences, but my self-confidence remained unshaken. I had faced challenges before, and I would navigate this one with the same calculated precision. I decided to confront Laura again, this time armed with the information about her involvement in financial deceit. Entering the living room, I found her lounging on the couch, seemingly unfazed by our previous confrontation. "We need to talk, Laura," I stated firmly, holding the key to the hidden safe in my hand. She glanced up, her expression shifting from defiance to feigned innocence. "About what, Mike?" "About everything. The affairs, the money. It's all connected, isn't it?" I didn't mince words. "I know you're involved in something much bigger than just cheating with Mark." Her eyes narrowed, and she let out an exasperated sigh. "You're overreacting. It's none of your business." I took a step closer, my voice unwavering. "It is my business. We're partners in this marriage, and you've been using that partnership to manipulate and deceive me. But I have evidence." She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see the cracks forming. "You think you can just threaten me with that safe? What are you going to do, huh?" A smirk played on my lips. "Actually, I already have a few ideas." As I spoke, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment I had been preparing for. Laura's bravado was slipping, and her true colors were beginning to show. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, showing her the photos and documents I had meticulously gathered. Her facade crumbled instantly. "You don't know what you're talking about," she spat, but her voice lacked conviction. I walked past her, heading towards my home office where I had set up a temporary command center. "You're not the only one who can play the game, Laura. I've already contacted the authorities, and I have enough evidence to bring you down." Panic flickered in her eyes. "You wouldn't dare." I turned back, locking eyes with her. "Try me." Without another word, I made my way to the basement, unlocking the door to the hidden safe. Inside were receipts, bank statements, and detailed records of transactions that implicated her in various fraudulent activities. It was clear she had been siphoning funds, laundering money, and using Mark as a front for some of her operations. As I began to compile the evidence, a new layer of emotions washed over me. Anger was now intertwined with a sense of righteous determination. Laura had not only betrayed me personally, but had also endangered our financial stability and reputations. I contacted the private investigator again, ensuring that every piece of evidence was documented and ready for legal action. The next steps were clear: expose her deceit publicly and ensure she faced the full extent of the law. That night, as I reviewed the compiled evidence, a sense of clarity and purpose settled over me. Revenge was no longer a mere thought. It was a meticulously planned operation. Laura had underestimated my resilience and my ability to turn the tables. Now, it was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. The days that followed my confrontation with Laura were a testament to her unraveling. Her once poised and controlled demeanor had been shattered, revealing the chaos she had been hiding beneath the surface. Every interaction with her was now a battle of wills, each conversation a strategic move in our escalating power struggle. With the evidence I had meticulously gathered, I felt an unshakable sense of control. Laura's financial manipulations were more extensive than I had initially anticipated. She had not only siphoned funds from our joint accounts, but had also invested in dubious ventures, leveraging our home as collateral. The depth of her deceit was staggering, and it fueled my determination to see her face the consequences. I decided it was time to involve legal counsel. Meeting with my attorney, I presented all the evidence, bank statements, photographs, and the private investigator's comprehensive reports. We strategized the best approach to ensure that Laura would be held accountable without leaving any room for her to manipulate the situation further. The plan was clear: expose her fraud, secure a legal settlement, and reclaim our financial stability. Emotionally, I was a storm of emotions. Anger simmered beneath a veneer of calm confidence. Betrayal cut deep, but it was tempered by a resolute focus on justice. I reminded myself why I was doing this, not just for myself, but to protect our shared future from the wreckage of her deceit. Meanwhile, Laura's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She began distancing herself from friends and family, cutting off communication channels to isolate herself further. Her lies became more elaborate, her rudeness more pronounced. It was as if she sensed the walls closing in and was trying to find any way to escape accountability. One evening, as I was finalizing the legal documents, I received an unexpected call from the private investigator. His tone was urgent. "Mike, I found something else. You need to see this." Curiosity piqued, I arranged to meet him the next morning. When we sat down, he slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents linking Laura to a series of offshore accounts and shell companies. It was clear she had been orchestrating a complex network of financial deceit, far beyond what I had initially uncovered. "This changes everything," he said. "She's not just embezzling funds. She's involved in money laundering and possibly more serious crimes." A chill ran down my spine. The situation was escalating beyond personal betrayal into criminal territory. This was no longer just about our marriage. It was about preventing Laura from potentially destroying not just our lives, but perhaps others as well. Armed with this new information, I knew I had to act swiftly. I shared the findings with my attorney, and together, we contacted the authorities. The legal wheels were now in motion, and there was no turning back. Laura's facade began to crumble publicly. Rumors swirled, and whispers of her deceit reached those who once trusted her. Her reputation was in tatters, and the legal ramifications were swift and unforgiving. Watching her spiral into chaos provided a cold satisfaction, a silent acknowledgement that her actions were finally catching up with her. As the legal process unfolded, I maintained my composure, ensuring that every move was calculated and precise. My confidence never wavered. If anything, it strengthened with each revelation of her deceit. I was reclaiming not just our financial stability, but my sense of self-worth that she had so carelessly undermined. But just as I began to see the end of this tumultuous chapter, another unexpected twist emerged. The investigator uncovered a connection between Laura and a high-profile figure involved in corporate fraud. It appeared that Laura had been using her marriage as a cover, leveraging our home and finances to facilitate larger, more dangerous schemes. The implications were staggering. This was no longer just about personal revenge or financial restitution. It was about dismantling a criminal network that Laura had been a part of. The stakes had never been higher, and my mission had evolved into something far more significant. Emotionally, I felt a shift. What began as a quest for personal justice had transformed into a fight against corruption and deceit on a much larger scale. My self-confidence remained steadfast, now bolstered by a sense of purpose that extended beyond our fractured marriage. The revelation of Laura's involvement with a high-profile figure in corporate fraud was the catalyst that transformed my quest for personal revenge into a mission of exposing systemic corruption. As I delved deeper into the evidence, the magnitude of her deceit became increasingly clear. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. It was about taking down a network of corruption that threatened to ripple through the community. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney, Sarah, to discuss the latest findings. Her reputation for handling complex cases made her the perfect ally in this battle. We pored over the documents, piecing together the intricate web Laura had spun. Offshore accounts, shell companies, fraudulent transactions. Each element was meticulously designed to obscure her tracks and protect her from legal repercussions. She's playing a dangerous game, Mike, Sarah remarked, her brow furrowed in concentration. If we proceed, we're not just dealing with her. We're up against some powerful players. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. I don't care who it takes down. She needs to be stopped. Emotionally, I was a whirlwind of focused anger and unwavering confidence. The betrayal had ignited a fire within me, one that fueled my every move. I refused to let Laura's manipulations define me or dictate the outcome of our lives. Meanwhile, Laura's behavior continued to deteriorate. She became increasingly paranoid, frequently checking our home security systems and confronting me with unfounded accusations. Her once charming facade had crumbled, revealing the true extent of her ruthlessness. She wasn't just an unfaithful wife. She was a cunning manipulator who would stop at nothing to maintain her grip on power. One afternoon, as I was reviewing the latest batch of evidence, Sarah received a call from an unexpected source, a whistleblower from within Laura's network. The informant provided additional proof of her involvement in illegal activities, including bribery and money laundering on a grand scale. This new information was the breakthrough we needed to solidify our case. I felt a sense of vindication. Laura had meticulously built her empire on lies, but now, every stone was being unturned. Her downfall was inevitable, and I was orchestrating it with precision. With the new evidence in hand, Sarah and I prepared to present our case to the authorities. We knew that taking on someone of Laura's stature wouldn't be easy, but our resolve was unshakable. Every step we took was calculated, ensuring that we left no room for her to exploit any loopholes. As the legal proceedings began, Laura attempted to maintain her composure, but the weight of the evidence was undeniable. Her attempts to discredit me and manipulate the narrative backfired spectacularly. Friends and acquaintances, once loyal, began to distance themselves, unable to reconcile the image of the woman they thought they knew with the corrupt individual the evidence revealed. The courtroom became a battleground where Laura's true nature was laid bare. Her lies and deceit unraveled before the judge and jury, each revelation more damning than the last. The public nature of the trial added another layer of satisfaction to my pursuit of justice. Laura's reputation was in tatters, and her carefully constructed facade was crumbling for everyone to see. Emotionally, I remained steadfast. The initial pain of betrayal had transformed into a sense of purpose that transcended personal grievances. I was no longer merely a wronged husband seeking revenge. I was an agent of justice, ensuring that Laura faced the consequences of her actions. But just as the case seemed poised for a decisive victory, another unexpected twist emerged. Laura's high-profile connections began to retaliate, attempting to discredit the investigation and cast doubt on the legitimacy of the evidence. Powerful allies of hers tried to influence key figures, creating obstacles that threatened to derail our progress. This new challenge only fueled my determination. I couldn't let Laura's network intimidate me or halt the pursuit of justice. With Sarah's expertise and the unwavering support of the whistleblower, we fortified our strategy, anticipating and countering every move Laura's allies made against us. The courtroom drama had consumed much of my time and energy, but even as Laura was sentenced, my mind couldn't rest. The victory felt hollow in some ways. Yes, justice was served, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. As I navigated the aftermath, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here and contemplating the next steps in reclaiming my life. Rebuilding was the word that kept echoing in my thoughts. Our home, once a sanctuary, now felt like a battleground littered with remnants of deceit. I decided it was time to clear out the physical and emotional clutter that Laura had left behind. Moving forward required more than just legal victory. It demanded a fresh start. One morning, I began sorting through our shared belongings. Each item held memories, some cherished, others tainted by Laura's manipulation. As I packed away personal items, I stumbled upon a hidden compartment in our bedroom closet. Curious, I pried it open to find a collection of Laura's old journals and a stack of letters addressed to various unknown recipients. My heart sank as I realized there was more to her deceit than I had initially uncovered. Sitting down with the journals, I began to read. Laura had meticulously documented her affairs, not just with Mark, but with several other men she had lured into our lives under false pretenses. The depth of her manipulation was staggering. She had crafted a persona of the perfect wife, hiding her true nature behind a facade of charm and sophistication. Each entry revealed her cunning strategies to exploit those around her, using our marriage as a shield for her ulterior motives. As I delved deeper, I discovered references to meetings and transactions that hinted at her involvement in orchestrating the very fraud that had led to her downfall. It was clear that Laura had been using her relationships to facilitate her schemes, leveraging their trust and access to further her goals. This revelation added another layer to her betrayal, painting a picture of a woman driven by ambition and deceit. Emotionally, the discovery was a mix of anger and determination. I felt betrayed not just as a husband, but as someone who had believed in the sanctity of our marriage. Yet, amidst the turmoil, my self-confidence remained steadfast. I knew that understanding the full extent of Laura's actions was crucial to fully severing the ties that bound us and ensuring that no remnants of her deceit lingered. With the journals and letters in hand, I decided to take one final step in dismantling Laura's legacy of deceit. I reached out to my attorney, Sarah, to discuss the implications of these new findings. Together, we reviewed the documents, identifying key pieces of evidence that could further expose Laura's manipulative tactics and prevent her from exploiting others in the future. These journals provide a comprehensive look into her methods, Sarah noted, flipping through the pages. We can use this information to ensure that any future interactions Laura has are monitored, preventing her from causing harm to others. Her words reinforced my resolve. It wasn't just about cleaning up the remnants of our marriage. It was about preventing Laura from continuing her pattern of manipulation and deceit. By bringing everything to light, I could help protect others from falling victim to her schemes. Meanwhile, I took steps to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. I reconnected with friends and family who had distanced themselves during the turmoil, sharing my side of the story and the extent of Laura's deceit. Their support was invaluable, reinforcing my sense of self-worth and reminding me that I wasn't alone in this journey. One evening, as I sat in our now quiet living room, I received an unexpected visitor. It was Mark, the plumber who had ignited the chain of events leading to Laura's exposure. His presence was unexpected, and I felt a mix of curiosity and caution as he entered. "Mike," he began, his voice tinged with regret, "I wanted to apologize for everything. I had no idea Laura was involved in something like this." His apology was sincere, and I could see the genuine remorse in his eyes. "I appreciate that, Mark. It wasn't your fault. Laura manipulated you just as she did everyone else." Mark nodded, running a hand through his hair. "I've been trying to make things right since everything came to light. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know." His offer touched me, highlighting the broader impact of Laura's deceit. It wasn't just our lives that had been affected. Many others had fallen prey to her manipulation. Accepting his offer felt like a small step toward healing and ensuring that Laura's actions didn't go unchallenged. As the weeks passed, the remnants of Laura's deceit began to fade, replaced by a semblance of normalcy in our home. Yet, beneath the surface, unresolved tensions lingered like shadows at dusk. I had managed to reclaim my financial stability and rebuild relationships that Laura had strained, but a part of me remained vigilant, aware that her manipulations might still cast long shadows. One crisp autumn morning, I decided to revisit some of the evidence I had collected. Despite the legal battles and the emotional toll, I felt a lingering need to ensure that every thread of Laura's deceit had been meticulously unraveled. Sitting at my desk, I reviewed the journals and letters I had found, each page a testament to her cunning and ambition. As I flipped through the pages, a particular entry caught my eye. It detailed a meeting with an individual named Victor, an enigmatic figure whose name had surfaced only briefly in the private investigators' reports. The entry was cryptic, mentioning plans that extended beyond our immediate financial dealings. My curiosity piqued. I decided it was time to dig deeper into Victor's role in Laura's schemes. I contacted the private investigator, requesting a focused investigation into Victor. Within days, the investigator provided a comprehensive report. Victor was a seasoned con artist with a history of orchestrating elaborate frauds and money laundering operations. His involvement with Laura suggested that her activities were part of a larger, more sinister network. Emotionally, the discovery reignited a sense of urgency. If Laura had connections with someone like Victor, the scope of her deceit was far more extensive than I had initially imagined. My self-confidence remained intact, but now it was coupled with a heightened sense of responsibility to prevent further damage. Determined to uncover the full extent of Laura's involvement, I delved into public records, online databases, and financial statements. Each piece of information I uncovered painted a picture of a woman who had meticulously crafted a facade of success and legitimacy, all while orchestrating a network of deceit that spanned multiple states. One evening, as I was poring over documents in my home office, I received an unexpected email. It was from an anonymous source, claiming to have insider information about Laura's operations. The message was brief but compelling. "Meet me at the old warehouse on Elm Street at midnight. I have proof of everything." Skeptical yet intrigued, I weighed the risks. Engaging with an unknown informant could be dangerous, but the potential rewards were too significant to ignore. After careful consideration, I decided to attend the meeting, ensuring I took every precaution to protect myself. Midnight arrived, and I drove to the designated location, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building stood silent and imposing under the moonlight, its broken windows and graffiti-covered walls hinting at years of neglect. Taking a deep breath, I approached cautiously, scanning the area for any signs of movement. A figure emerged from the shadows, a middle-aged man with a wary expression. "You must be Mike," he said in a hushed tone. "I've been waiting for you." I nodded, maintaining a steady demeanor. "You have the information?" He handed me a USB drive. "Everything you need is on here. Emails, transaction records, meeting schedules, proof of Laura and Victor's entire operation. Be careful. They're still active, and they won't take kindly to anyone digging into their affairs." I thanked him and quickly left the warehouse, my mind racing with the implications of this new evidence. Back at home, I inserted the USB drive into my computer, revealing a trove of digital documents that detailed the full extent of Laura's collaboration with Victor. The evidence was irrefutable, providing a clear path to dismantling their network once and for all. Emotionally, a mix of relief and determination surged within me. The battle was far from over, but now I had the tools to strike a decisive blow against the corruption Laura had perpetuated. My confidence was bolstered by the newfound evidence, reaffirming my commitment to see this mission through to the end. With the additional proof, I coordinated with my attorney and the authorities to set up a coordinated takedown of Laura and Victor's operations. The plan was intricate, requiring precise timing and unwavering focus. As the days unfolded, arrests were made, and the extent of their fraud became public knowledge, shaking the community to its core. Throughout this process, I remained composed, channeling my emotions into strategic actions. The satisfaction of seeing Laura's empire crumble was tempered by the lingering pain of betrayal, but my self-assuredness never wavered. I had transformed from a wronged husband into a determined force for justice, ensuring that Laura's legacy would be one of exposure and accountability. The newfound evidence on Laura and Victor had set the stage for a comprehensive takedown of their illicit operations. With the USB drive's contents meticulously analyzed and corroborated by the private investigator, I felt an unwavering sense of purpose. Every piece of information brought me closer to dismantling the web of deceit Laura had woven around us and beyond. I convened another meeting with Sarah, my attorney, to outline the next steps. "We need to move quickly," I stated firmly. "With Victor's deeper ties to organized crime, we can't afford any delays. The authorities need to act before they catch wind of our investigation." Sarah nodded, her expression serious. "I've already contacted federal agents specializing in financial crimes and organized crime. They'll be bringing in additional resources to handle this case. We'll coordinate with them to ensure a seamless operation." Emotionally, I was a mix of determination and calculated calm. The betrayal had transformed into a mission, one that required strategic precision. My self-confidence had only grown stronger, fueled by each revelation of Laura's manipulations. As the coordinated effort to expose Laura and Victor intensified, Laura herself became increasingly desperate. Her attempts to manipulate the narrative were met with swift countermeasures. She tried to discredit the evidence, spreading false information to anyone who would listen. But with the overwhelming proof stacked against her, her efforts were futile. One afternoon, as I reviewed the latest developments, I received an unexpected visit from Laura. She stood at the doorstep, her usual composure replaced by a palpable tension. "Mike, we need to talk," she demanded, her voice laced with false urgency. I met her gaze steadily. "There's nothing left to discuss, Laura. Everything has been laid bare." Her eyes flashed with anger and frustration. "You think you've won? This isn't over. You have no idea what you're dealing with." I remained unfazed, my confidence unwavering. "On the contrary, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Your schemes, your manipulations, they're all documented and ready to be presented to the authorities." She took a step closer, her demeanor shifting from defensive to aggressive. "You're making a big mistake. You don't know who you're messing with." I could see the desperation in her eyes, the last remnants of her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "I know enough to ensure that you and Victor face the consequences of your actions. This is the end of your reign of deceit." Laura's bravado faltered, replaced by a hint of vulnerability. "You think this will fix everything? You think you'll just erase the damage I've done?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "It's not about erasing the damage, Laura. It's about holding you accountable for it. You've hurt many people, including me, and justice needs to be served." She turned away, a mix of anger and resignation etched on her face. "You'll regret this, Mike. Mark, Victor. They're more powerful than you realize." I watched her leave, a sense of finality settling over me. This confrontation marked the culmination of our bitter conflict, a decisive moment where truth triumphed over deceit.